Thank you.
Hi, friends.
Hi.
Welcome to episode 2 of, I don't know,
I
Angie's
guess so.
Tutorials. I don't know that we have a name or anything yet.
They don't.
They don't, but I've seen what you're working on and I'm excited about it.
Thank you.
One of the things that you're working on today, they kind of bring me joy as I walk around the house.
Yes.
Like you take a normal thing that I would walk by 100 times out of 100, and then you work on it a little bit, you make it special, and then it puts a smile on my face every time I see it.
I'm glad to hear that.
Oh,
I kind of get happy when I look at them.
Do you?
Too. Yes.
You do?
Yes.
It's probably a different thing, but it's yours is probably more, I don't want to say prideful, but feel good about the work that you did.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Should we tell them what you're working on?
Yeah. So we thought we could use some IOD products on, like you said, on something fairly normal, something like one of these clay pots. And you can find these. They're pretty inexpensive and they're nice the way they are, but they're also this amazing blank canvas.
Bam! There you go, dear.
Yeah, so I love decorating pots, and I've done it for years and years.
Oh, I want to bring this one back over here if you don't mind.
I don't mind.
And this is nice. It's clean. It's new. You put a plant in it. It's great. But you paint it with some Deb's DIY. Use maybe some IOD. I think that's Trimmings. Is that Trimmings?
Yes, it is.
Trimmings. And you take something that's cool and you make it pop. It went from product to heirloom, just like that. I think it's awesome. This one here is on our dresser, and I just see it and I just get happy. It's cool. You did an amazing job of turning this into this and this into this. There's another one over here somewhere. These sit above our sink.
Yep, but above our kitchen sink.
Above our kitchen sink on the windowsill.
3 of them up there.
And you just go up there, whatever, you wash your hands, you wash a cup, and it just makes me happy. So there you go. You do tremendous work, dear. Tremendous work.
Thank you. I'm glad that you enjoy them as much as I do.
I do.
Yeah, I like the simplicity of these white pots, and I've painted 3 of them. They're kind of the same style, so it looks really nice and neat in the windowsill and like that. And then this one, I wanted to play with some color, and so I really like those colors.
I really like turquoise, and this is I don't know what's Deb's.
Mermaid tail.
Mermaid tail?
It's mermaid tail and bohemian blue and a little bit of apothecary in that one.
I love those. And again, I just see it in the morning while I'm laying in bed, whatever. I comb my hair and I see this thing and it just makes me happy. So thank you for doing these.
And this one I did actually as an experiment because I wanted to see how air dry clay would do on a pot. And this plant isn't one that is, I mean, it dries out, so it's not always wet, but so far it's held up. It's, I don't know,
6 months?
Yeah, maybe 6 months.
6 months maybe,
yeah.
But I love
it's
it.
doing all right.
Makes me happy, brings me joy.
Yeah.
What do you got lined up for us today, my love?
So today we are going to make another pot. Can I give this back to you?
Sure.
And I bought this. This was also just a clay pot. It's shaped a little differently. I bought it from Hobby Lobby. It was $1.99.
And that looked like this?
It was that color, yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I did put 1 coat of apothecary, Deb's DIY apothecary on there. And we're just going to experiment a little bit and play. One thing I want to try is this paint inlay from IOD. This one is called Rose Chintz. And, I was going to tell you, so playing with the different colors, I wasn't really sure. I thought I wanted to put it on apothecary, but I wasn't 100% sure I would like the contrast. So I got the idea. I have these little wooden tags. I thought, you know what, let's just try it on a little wooden tag. It doesn't take very long.
It's a sampler.
And yeah, it's a good sample, but now I can use it on a gift or, something else. So sometimes I'm hesitant to take the time to try out a new color or a new technique. But this one, it felt like, you know what, it's got a use.
That looks amazing.
Yeah, didn't it?
It turned out so good. It's like they were made for each other, professionally designed. That looks. Yeah. And that's great. And I know where you're going to put that tomorrow. So what color was this?
This is Deb's DIY Apothecary.
Apothecary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and IOD Rose Chintz.
IOD Rose Chintz. And then I think we're going to do an air dry clay rim, kind of like I did on that one. And for that, we're going to use, this is the Trimmings 1 mold. There are 3 different Trimmings molds. So each one has several different trims on it, but we're going to use Trimmings 1. I'm not sure. I'm thinking this top one, but I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, that's pretty. Yeah, that'll be good. I
like it because it has flowers on it.
I was going to say, is that a rose? So,
and also because this pot doesn't have like the lip on it. That way I can use really any. I could even do multiple layers. I don't think I will, but anyway, I wanted you to see that your imagination is the only limit with IOD. Like there are so many possibilities. So what do you think? Should we work on it right now?
I think we should work on it right now. I also wanted to say that I'm a novice at this stuff. And when I work with this IOD paint with DIY, like I'm proud. I hope I'm not making myself loud here. I'm proud of what I did. Like these things, they take me from entry level into whatever. I don't want to brag, but intermediate. So,
yeah,
like this raises my creative game.
I would agree. So. I would agree. I think anybody could play with them and have a good time and feel happy with the product.
Yes, I would. Yeah. You're gonna be happy with the results you get from this stuff.
Absolutely. So I will admit that paint inlays can be a little intimidating. I was intimidated, and this is, what do you think? Maybe my 4th project, 5th project?
Oh, I don't know. I think more than that. They were large projects, so I think you have more experience than the number of projects you've done.
That is true, yeah. And so I'm going to share with you kind of what I've learned, although I'm still not perfect at them. As you can see on this one, there is a little bit of the paint inlay that didn't actually transfer, but I don't mind. I think that looks pretty. It adds to kind of
it was beautiful,
the vintage look of the piece. So so be prepared that could happen. Another thing I wanted to say is that in Colorado, we have a very dry climate. And so the moisture is really important. So you want to make sure that you're keeping your paint moist. That is just a part of the process that you always have to keep in the forefront of your mind. I don't know if you lived in Hawaii or
Alabama.
Alabama, it might not be an issue, but I don't know because I don't live there, so I haven't tried it. But the other thing that I discovered was that it's not just moisture. So you could spray this, like I have a little spray bottle. You could spray this and make sure that this was wet, but that doesn't mean it'll transfer if there's not actually a kind of a layer of paint for it to adhere to, a layer of wet paint for it to embed itself into. So those are a couple of things that I would like you to kind of keep in mind, and I'm going to demonstrate here on the video. So just making sure that you can see what I'm doing. So I'll kind of walk you through this first piece. And because the pot has angled sides, I can't just do one piece across. I kind of had to cut it a little bit. But that's okay. I think it's still going to look awesome. So I'm just kind of gauging about where my paint's going to go. And I'm using a brush that's big enough that it's going to get pretty good coverage before my paint starts to dry. So I want to...
So you're trying to get a thickish coat?
Yes.
Or a wettish coat?
You want it to be a little bit thick, and you definitely want it to be wet. And you can use a spray bottle to keep it a little bit wet if you need to. Like I could spray a little bit of water on here, but so it's both wet and thick enough that the paint on the paint inlay is going to set down in there pretty well. Okay. And mine is a little weird shape, so hopefully I got all the parts that I needed to get. Actually, I'm going to do just a little bit.
So this actually just becomes part of the paint.
It does.
It's not like a sticker. It's more like a tattoo, kind of. It goes into the...
I don't completely know what I would call it. I don't think it's a tattoo or a sticker, either one. Making sure I have paint all the way to the edge here. And then over here, let's make sure there's a nice layer of paint. Okay, so I laid that right on top of that wet paint, and I have a brayer here, and I think this kind of helps. You want that to lay into the paint.
So it kind of presses it in a little bit?
Yeah, because you want that inlay to be really into the paint. And then the final thing that I do, I'm spraying it with a little bit of water. And now I'm taking just a microfiber cloth, and I don't know if you can see, that makes that paper really translucent. And that tells me that it's wet. You want the paper to be wet, you want the paint to be wet, and they're just going to kind of meld together. We will be peeling this paper off, but not yet.
The inlay is moisture activated.
Yes, it is very moisture activated. In fact, once we get this in here and we remove the paper, you have to be really careful not to get any moisture on it, because it will run, and you don't want that. So here it is on the pot. And then, of course, I always like to complicate things a little bit. Nobody's surprised by this. So before I move to that, I just want to let you know what we're doing right now. You have your wet paint, you have your inlay on top. You've gotten that completely wet and kind of pushed it down in there. And now we're gonna let it dry completely. And so that's gonna take a little while. If this wasn't a round project like this, I would be done. I would set it aside and let it dry. But this is round, so I want to put a couple of other inlays so that it goes all the way around the pot. So I'm going to have to be a little careful with that and not mess this up. I wanted to show you kind of how so this is how your paint inlay comes. It has grid lines on the back that can help you line it up, like if you were doing something that had to be straight, or if you were matching a design, that would be good. This one, we don't have to worry quite so much about it, because you're not going to look at the whole pot at one time anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut part of this off here, right to where that hits that flower.
I think it's cool the way you cut that out, and it doesn't look like it's been cut out or that it's partial. It just looks like it was designed that way.
Well, I'm hoping that's what's going to happen. I can't guarantee it. So that's the hope, and if it does, that's awesome. If it doesn't, we'll roll with it. I told my granddaughter that crafting is just one endless line of problems to solve. And it kind of is true. You spend a lot of time solving problems. If you're going to think outside the box, which, you know what, we want you to. That's the fun part about creating. Then if you're thinking outside the box, you're going to have to adjust and roll with the punches a little bit.
Well, you are super good at that. Like, that's life lesson stuff right there.
That's what I'm hoping for my granddaughter. Yeah. And you know, she reminds me of it sometimes. So I know it's making an impact. All right. So now I'm just going to kind of fit this one over here on this side. And I think that looks pretty good. I'm just trying to gauge where I have to paint my paint again. So we're going to do the same thing that we just did with this wet paint. And trying to figure out how I can mark it. You know what? I'm going to use a little piece of tape so I know about where I want to stop painting.
Nice.
Okay. So this one's a little bit bigger of a piece. I'm going to have to move a little faster with my layer of paint here. And hopefully you can see it's fairly big. Like when I'm painting, I usually like a thinner coat than this, which was kind of what stumped me up in the beginning, because I would do like my regular thin layer of paint, and then it just wasn't quite enough for the inlay to fully transfer. Like it was a lot more crackly than I wanted it to be. Although that can look good too. And you can kind of, with the clay-based paint, you can kind of see it when it's starting to dry. So I'm going to spray it with my water again a little bit. And you can also spray the back of your transfer a little bit. Usually I do that. Last time I was moving kind of fast. But let's lay this on here. Just like we did before.
Man, it looks good.
Doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I think I need to add a little paint over here. All right. So I'm going to use my brayer again to get that laid in there. It takes out some of those wrinkles, although I don't really mind the wrinkles. I kind of think that crackle looks kind of cool on there. If it happens, it's not a deal breaker. I think it can still look really cool.
Embrace the crackle.
Yes. Embrace the crackle. So I'm spraying it, and now watch as I start. See how that paper,
you can see when it kind of takes, huh?
And that rose right there, I didn't have a ton of paint on. We might see that rose doesn't come out all the way, and that's kind of what I was talking about before, where you don't have enough paint. But we'll see. It might have been enough. But I want to make sure that paper, all that little white filmy look of it, you want that to completely go away. And all right, so this one's on, and it's gonna start drying. So now you can see how this one started to dry. See how it's not as translucent. Yeah, that one's starting to dry. That one's still wet. And we have a little bit more space over here. I think we'll put one more flower. I didn't have these all picked out yet, so.
But I like the way you can just cut them up and make them fit.
Yes. Yeah, so when this inlay, I originally, I don't know if you remember, I used it on a white mirror that we sold in our booth. And so I had to cut all these little sections of it and fit it together. So this paint inlay has so many little pieces that were left over from that project that I thought this would be a perfect project to use up some of those little pieces on.
Yeah, because they had like the pencil drawer and real thin pieces.
Yes, it had a lot of little thin pieces. So this one, trying to figure out, I think let's take this leaf off here so that we get more flower and less leaf. See how we like that. Yeah, I like that. That looks nice. And this flower isn't gonna completely show, but I'm not too worried about that. If I really cared, I could go in and try to piece another flower out. In fact, that's probably it right there. Look at that.
Oh, look at there.
I think we're gonna grab that since that happened.
Are you gonna? Since that happened.
I mean, that
Run with it.
That was pretty crazy. I think this flower just wants to be on here. And I'm going to use a little piece of painter's tape to hold that together. Look at that. I don't know if it's perfect, but I don't know that anyone would notice. Okay, so this, yeah, that's going to look pretty great.
All right. Say hi to Kathy.
Hi, Kathy. I hope you're watching.
How sweet was she last week?
I know.
Thank you, Kathy.
Such a great community of people.
Oh my goodness. I
enjoy meeting people. I enjoy hearing about their projects and their ideas. I never ever get tired of looking at things people create. You can attest to that, can't you?
Oh my goodness.
I'll just sit there and
give her a cup of coffee and let her scroll a creative page. Oh, she gets lost.
It's true. All right. Hopefully I got this the way I want it. I think that looks pretty good. I forgot to spray my paper again. On a flatter project, it's a little less hectic, but this one's kind of, I think it's going to be worth it. I think it'll be worth the trouble. I'm going to get this wet. Use my brayer on there. I think I did that backwards from what I used to do it. And you'll probably develop your own method for doing this. I mean, the bottom line is you just want to have your paint inlay meld into that paint. So the paint has to be wet enough. The inlay needs to really lay down in there. Okay. So I feel pretty happy with that. I mean, you probably could go add more, but I feel like this is pretty good. I don't want it to be too busy with flowers. So we are going to need to let this dry. While that's drying, I think I'm going to go ahead and work on this, this air dry clay. And this is just cornstarch, and I use a little brush. That doesn't have to be anything special, but you just want to get this this air dry, or this what is this called? You just want to get this cornstarch down into this mold, and what this does, it helps your air dry clay to come out of the mold when it's time to release it. Thank you, dear. Let me turn you back on. You're back on. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Terrific. I appreciate that. And
glad to assist.
We are just going to we're working on this air dry clay while that dries. And I was just telling people about putting this cornstarch in here.
You want to make sure and get all the little nooks and crannies?
Yes, because you want that air dry clay to pop out of there perfectly. You don't want to get it too bunched up either, because then you're kind of blocking the mold and the clay can't get in there. That's one thing that's so terrific about the IOD molds is all that detail. I've never used this part of the mold before, but I'm so excited to see how many flowers are going to pop out of there.
It's going to be awesome.
I think it is. I was going to grab this little piece of plastic so I have something to lay it on. Normally, when I'm working with the air dry clay, I usually put it on the piece right away. This one I'm kind of getting a little bit adventurous. We'll see how it works. But I'm going to go ahead and cast them, lay them out, and then we'll pull them off and glue them on.
I see.
So they will still be wet. I usually like to do it immediately, but we'll see how it works. So this is my air dry clay. When I open the package, a new package, I put it into a jar. Again, we live in a really dry climate, and it feels to me like it dries out too much. Even if I wrap it up in plastic, it seems a little dry. So I just opened this air dry clay yesterday, and it is still really nice and soft. If it gets a little bit dry, you can always spray a little bit of water in there and just let it sit, and it'll get soft for you again. So I kind of made this little snake. It's like back when you were in kindergarten and you played with Play-Doh. And you just want to press it into the mold. And again, your brayer can help with that. And IOD has this really cool rim here on the side. See how I'm just pulling, and that rim really helps you see where the end of your mold is, because you want to make sure you get it all the way full, but if it gets too full, then that can have its own problems when you go to glue it on. So I'm just pulling this off the sides. I have seen a lot of people use clay that look a lot better at how they do it. My method still looks a little bit messy, but it works.
Well, I think you do awesome, dear.
I was watching a lady this morning and I was like, wow, she looks like a professional. I still look like a kindergartner. But I'm okay with that. I could have made my snake a little bit smaller, I think. Or I could have rolled it out a little bit longer. There's something really awesome about watching somebody who's amazing at doing something. Oh. I really enjoy doing that. But sometimes I think it's kind of awesome to watch somebody who's kind of fumbling around a little bit do something. Hopefully you're having that experience right now.
That's funny.
But, I think it's good because it lets you know what? You don't have to be an amazing professional. You can kind of fumble your way through it, and you're still going to get a good result.
There you go.
I'm going to try to make my snake a little bit better here. And the ends of these molds are designed to fit together. So I don't know if you can see this little cutout here, and then this. They are designed so that you can just butt them right up against each other. Although even if they don't come out perfectly like that, they still look fine, I think, anyway. I'm not very particular about those tiny little details. I think that's why I like a vintage look, because if you get a little cracking or there's some little imperfections, I think it still looks awesome. what I'm hoping in doing these tutorials, I'm hoping people will try these things and make their own flat, you know, it could be a flower pot, it could be whatever is inspiring you. Hopefully you'll feel a little bit brave to try it yourself.
Well, I think you're awesome at encouraging people.
Well, thank you. So I want to make sure it's in there, and I also want to make sure it's fairly smooth on the back because, you know, it is going to get glued onto a smooth surface. So I think that's going to work for my purposes. It's not perfect, but now it's time to take the mold out. You do it while the clay is still wet. You don't let it dry in there. And the easiest way to do it is to actually turn your mold over and kind of curl the edge up. See it starting to release there? Oh, those flowers
that looks
are
good.
Beautiful. I'm very happy with that. That looks terrific. See how great that is?
Oh, that looks good, dear.
Thank you.
You think 2 of them are going to do the ticket?
It might take 3. We'll see. But wow, that's going to be pretty, don't you think?
Oh, it's going to be beautiful, dear.
You can see that our paper is back to that white color. So I believe this is all the way dry. So now I'm going to do what seems really weird, but now I'm going to get it wet again. I always think that's kind of funny. It's like, wait, I'm getting it wet again? I just got it dry. But so that is exactly what I'm doing. Getting this wet. And I'm going to go ahead and get all of these wet at one time because once you take this paper off, this paint will run so easy that it'll make you cry. So I want to pull them all off at the same time. I don't want to be messing around with water. Okay, so I'm going to start on this one here on this corner. And I like to start peeling where the paper is, like where there's not an image. I'll make sure that you can see this really well. As you start to peel this off, oh, it's oddly satisfying.
You're adorbs. Adorbs.
That's so awesome. And some of that you can see it's pretty crackly. Some of it did not lay down in the paint as well as I wanted it to, but that's okay. We're going to go with it. And so that is on my end. That's when that happens. There's not something wrong with the paint inlay. I just didn't have the paint as wet. And this was, like I said, kind of a weird project trying to work on this round surface with these little pieces. But I like the way it looks. What do you think, dear? You're very quiet.
I think it looks amazing. And when I saw the tag, the sample one, I was really excited. And
yeah, that one came out a little bit better because it was a smaller, flatter piece that I could just do. Also, I wasn't doing it on camera, so I didn't quite have the same pressure.
Yeah, that's part of what makes you so brave.
It's a little bit different trying to do it on camera. But I'm not going to use that as an excuse. So now we're going to try to start putting these this trim along the top here. And that's Also going to be a little tricky. Like if I were doing this just in my own crafting time, I would let this dry and then I would do it. So I'm kind of trying to move a little faster than probably what is wise, to tell you the truth. But we're going to do it. So I have some Aleene's tacky glue. And you could use really any kind of glue that you want. This one has worked well for me. Now, one of the problems that I'm going to have, and one reason why I would usually let this dry, is that I'm going to kind of have to lay it on its side and try not to smudge up my paint inlay. So it's going to be probably a problem.
So what you're saying is, if you're doing this at home, let it dry overnight.
Yes, if you're doing this at home, allow enough time in between the steps so that it can actually dry.
So you might want to have made the molds tomorrow and let it dry overnight. Let the inlay dry overnight.
Yes, let the inlay dry overnight. When it's all the way dry, then cast your molds, then glue them on there. So yes, this is definitely not the ideal way to do it, but it is how we're doing it. So, so I have my mold that we just did a few minutes ago, and I'm just going to flip it over carefully. And if these crack, I'm okay with that too. I know you might be horrified if you're really a perfectionist. This might be horrifying. But
you like that rustic kind of distressed chippy thing, so that's right in line with what you like to do.
Absolutely. So I'm just using this little, I don't even know what this is, little paint mixer.
Reminds me of a spatula.
It does kind of look like a spatula. I just want to put a nice thin coat of this glue on here. Not too much, but you want enough that it's going to hold that piece on. And I went back and forth as to whether or not I should put this on and then do my paint inlay. I don't know.
Interesting.
You could do it either way. This might not have been the best way to do it. We'll see. But again, I have a $1.99 pot there. And if it doesn't work out, it's $1.99.
You're not overly invested?
No, I'm not. And I probably will have learned what not to do, which I spend a lot of time doing. All right, I am ready.
It's looking good, dear.
I know. I love it. It's kind of funny whenever I'm creating and things start not going exactly how I wanted them to. I'll get disappointed, and then I just keep going with it because what else are you going to do? But usually by the end of it, I'm really happy with it. So,
what'd you say you told your granddaughter?
We're not shooting for perfection. What do you think about this? How cool is this?
Hold on. I'm going to come over and check this out. Oh, man.
It's pretty awesome, isn't it?
Oh, that is so pretty. The detail in those molds is redonk.
I know. So I don't want to push too hard because you don't want to
distort the flowers.
Smash it, but you want to push down hard enough that it really adheres to your pot. And again, here, if I were working on this project off camera, I would probably let this dry and set up a little bit more even before I added my second piece. But
it's looking awesome, dear.
We're not doing that. Hopefully we won't mess it up. So I'm gonna.
Do you need help?
I'm not.
You want me to hold the pot?
Would you mind?
I wouldn't mind at all.
Yeah, if you'll hold it just from the inside like this, that would be perfect.
On that side or this side?
Either way, it doesn't matter.
I don't want to.
And see, this side has the...
And they're shaped to fit like that, like a puzzle piece.
Yes, absolutely. So this one will go.
Because IOD thought of everything.
I know. Aren't they awesome? And when this dries, it will pull apart a little bit. So I'm kind of jumbling it up there just a little bit. There'll probably still be a gap. You could go back in with some more air dry clay, the next day to try to fill in any cracks or anything, but I don't know. I'm just not that fussy with it. Look at that. What is that? 3 inches? Okay.
It looks awesome, dear.
I know. I'm pretty happy with that.
That looks awesome.
All right. Let's pop this out. See how this goes. And this is going to go here.
I like the way you roll, dude.
Well, that's nice. I'm glad, because you're kind of stuck with it. This is how it goes. You know what? I don't think that's going to be too bad.
Nice.
I mean, you could tell for sure if you were looking for it. But I think that's kind of the thing, is that people don't look as closely.
Mm-mm.
And it's a flower pot, so, the part you don't like, you just stick in the back.
It's the back of the Christmas tree.
Exactly. Yeah, I kind of overcut that one chunk, but I'm not gonna stress about it.
Do you need help?
No. Nope. There we go. We've got our whole rim on there. What do you think about that?
I think it's exciting.
I do too. I like it. I'm happy with it. So now we're going to paint that the same apothecary color.
Yeah.
You have a look on your face like, what?
No, I was just thinking that distressed is such a style, and I think people see a mistake, or not a mistake, but just an imperfection, and they want to throw the whole thing away. But actually, but then they'll go straight to the store, they'll go to Pottery Barn, Crate and Barrel, and they'll buy something distressed.
That's funny. Yes. That's true.
So, sorry, I was just having a weird thought.
Oh, I thought you were questioning my color choice, and I don't know, I may end up changing my mind.
No, I think it's great. I think it's great.
But let's give it a try. I'm going to use a smaller brush now, since we're dealing with...
I think it should be apothecary.
Do you?
Yeah, I think it would be a mistake not to go with apothecary. The way you're doing what you're doing, it would be a mistake not to.
And so the other thing about air dry clay is that I think it's better, usually it is better to paint it while it's still wet. Mm-hmm. So I know I talked a lot about letting things dry. In this situation, you don't really want to let it dry. You want to go ahead and paint it. because air dry clay by nature will crack when it's drying, and when you paint it, it actually it still may crack, but it will probably crack less, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
So I'm putting it on this little very well used Lazy Susan because I don't want it's in a delicate situation right now. I don't want the mold to slide off. I don't want to squish the mold, but you're not going to be able to see that, are you? Let me show you here what I'm doing. So just adding that paint on there, trying to get it down into the detail. And I can use a smaller brush if I need to. I probably will end up in some little spots using a little smaller of a brush. When I come up here on this edge, I'm definitely gonna slow down, be really careful because I don't want to get wet paint onto my paint inlay because it will cause that paint to run. So chalk paint always has to be sealed when you're finished with it. So this will need to be sealed. When you're sealing a paint inlay, you have to be really careful not to use something water-based and brush it over it. If you do that, I pretty much guarantee that it's going to smear. I don't think you'll be happy with it. Of course, you can experiment on your own, but I either spray it with like a clear spray paint, or I use a clear wax, and that's what I'm going to use on this one. And this is the Deb's DIY clear wax, and I'm going to just apply it with a wax brush. And I'm going to have to be a little careful on this air dry clay. In fact, I don't even know for sure how this is going to work out in the morning. It might be too soon to put a wax on, but I want to show you how to do it. So you just and I think you can probably see on there that the paint is actually kind of changing colors with that wax. So that's one way that you know that you've hit all the areas. And this is just a cheap wax brush that I just got from Joann's a long time ago. I don't know if they still have those, but you can pick one up at Hobby Lobby or buy one from Amazon, wherever you like to get your craft supplies. But I'm going to show you on this paint inlay, the wax, it won't make it run or smear, but it will protect it. So I'm not sure how I want to do this clay edge yet. So I'm not putting the wax on there quite yet. To think about that a little bit. There we go. And it'll need to be sealed on the inside too. Probably not going to do that on the video because I need this bottom to dry. But I am going to add a little bit of this dark wax right here along this rim. because that's kind of naturally, I think, how that that rim would look after many years sitting outside. So I'm using a smaller brush, and I'm just going to lightly brush it right here along this rim. And it already has that clear wax on it. You would want to put the clear wax on first, because that'll kind of help. Watch what happens when I kind of wipe this back. Kind of blends it.
I'm back.
Ah.
Your daughter wishes you well.
Oh.
All is well over there.
Oh, good.
How'd it turn out over here?
What do you think?
Oh, wow. That is
you
awesome.
Liking it?
Yes. It ties in so perfectly with that paint inlay. And now you're doing some dark wax?
Just right here on the bottom of this rim.
Make it look a little aged?
Yes. I like that. I think that's going to work pretty nicely.
Nice.
I think I might also put some of that dark wax on the bottom a little bit, the bottom edge.
I was wondering.
Now, I might be getting crazy with the dark wax over here. But I'm liking it. I think it's looking pretty good. I think it lends itself well to the colors. I think it lends itself well to the aged look. So you know how you use dish towels on things you shouldn't use them on, and I yell at you about it? See what I did over here?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Ooh, that looks so pretty. Look how rich that looks.
Oh, that looks good, dear. It looks vintagey.
It does. It looks like this pot has seen some years, even though it has not. All right, what do you think? How's it looking?
Oh, you're doing so good, dear.
Well, I'm trying to decide. I want to go ahead and wax this, but I think I need a pretty soft brush. Maybe this one will be good if I just get most of this dark wax off of here. I just don't want to press too hard on the detail since it's still pretty wet. I would say probably going to have to do this part tomorrow because I do not want to crush this detail. But there you can kind of see how this is going to look once it's waxed and dark waxed. And I will need to seal the inside of it and just let this dry. I think we're done. What do you think, dear?
I think it looks beautiful.
Thank you. I'm glad you like it.
I think it looks beautiful, dear.
All right. Well, once again, thank you so much for watching our tutorial. And hopefully you'll try some of these techniques, or you could certainly try this exact project. But I hope you'll try something. And you can always send us pictures of your projects. We'd love to see them. And we love to hear from you if you have questions or suggestions. But I think we're done for today.
I think so. I think you did a tremendous job. I think one of the biggest lessons today was when things don't go exactly your way, keep going. And you created something beautiful. You kind of pivoted and made something beautiful, dear. And by all means, send us your pictures, send us your comments. Kathy, thank you for everything. You are wonderful, and see ya. Love you. Bye.
Bye.